Rev up your engines! Here's a 91 Mitsubishi Eclipse. It costs $700. And strangely enough, it's a northern car, came from Pennsylvania. The paint is still in pretty good shape. It is the GS 16 valve double overhead cam, but it does not have the turbocharged engine. This is their famous 2-liter 16 valve. You've seen them in the Mitsubishi Evolutions, but of course then they're turboed and all-wheel drive. Lots of things to break. Not this one. It's a pretty simple car. But believe it or not, he bought it with only 79,000 miles on it. Let's start it up, see what it sounds like. Well, it's a Japanese car, starts right up. 83,000 miles on it. And yes, it is a Japanese car, so check it out, the AC still works. Now the power antenna's broken, but what the heck. And the paint's a little bit faded on the top from the sun. But then again, the spoilers always do that anyway. It is a handy hatch. The struts still hold it up. You got plenty of room here, you drop it down, you got even more room. They're extremely handy vehicles. Now it's an old car, it's a 91. It still gets 26, 27 on a highway. Now they're still relatively heavy cars, they still have old-fashioned systems, but there's a big advantage to that. It still has electronic fuel injection, mean one for each cylinder, easy to work on, not that expensive to work on. Look at all the working space that you've got on this engine. And it still has electric cooling fans, so you don't have to worry about the AC when you get stuck in traffic. So it's old enough to be simple, but new enough to have enough technology that you don't have to do anything with it. The problem with the really old cars, when you get carbureted cars, they clog up. You always have to be working on them. Most of them don't have working AC systems. They'll have a tendency of overheating when you get in traffic because they don't cool as well. These things still go perfectly fine. And of course, they got the cute pop-up headlights on them. You can't beat that. It gives them some style. Everything isn't plastic. Look. Glass. Yes, glass. It's not plastic that you have to polish because it looks bad. It's real glass and it doesn't cost much either. Now you might say, how come they're all plastic crap these days? Well, it's because it's cheaper to produce them. The modern cars have all that plastic wraparound with space-age looks. Costs nothing to mold those things in plastic. But if you have any idea what it would cost to make a glass piece that was shaped like that, it'd make your head spin. That's why it's all plastic, because it's cheaper to make whatever design they want. And check this out. Old car, but it's so dependable. He uses it as taxi. The power windows still work. Japanese quality. Now, it's not the original stereo, but this Pioneer works fine with Bluetooth. And sure, it's a little bit tight in the back seat if you happen to be large, but these are hatchbacks for smaller people in the back. And of course, it's older than a small wheelbase car. We go through the horrible lumpy road here in Rhode Island, and it's a little bit bumpy, but it's livable, you know. It's not as bad as that international truck that I had the other day. It's a pretty basic automatic transmission. But there's an advantage to that. It still works perfectly fine, shifts perfectly smooth, and can last a long time. I can't say that for modern cars that have 8 or 10 speeds. They're gonna break down when they get to be this age. So let's come to a stop and see what this thing can do. On your mark, get set, go! Hey, it threw me back in the seat a little. It's got decent acceleration. And you can hear it shifting gears like a dream. But check it out, it still idles pretty good. Hey, that's the best $700 ever spent, if you ask me. Check it out, even back in the day, in the 90s, even these Japanese cars, solid. They're not like the cheap tin or aluminum the new ones are made out of. That's one of the reasons they hold up. So think about it. You get a Mitsubishi Evolution engine, minus the turbo. I mean, if you always wanted, you could throw a turbo on it, but hey, this is a dependable bit of transportation for $700. You can't beat that. This is Rhode Island, it's born 25 years old, so he can register it as an antique vehicle, cost him maybe $50 a month to insure it. For somebody who's 19, that's dirt cheap insurance. Go buy a new Honda, see what your insurance is gonna be if you're 19. Now he's whining because he hasn't buffed it out, but that is the original paint on these cars. The Japanese knew how to paint cars. So really, you can't go wrong with the $700 taxi. You can make a lot of money on this in the long run. I'm always telling you about new technology. Well, I met a guy here. The guy brought me that old Toyota Previa. He's involved in a company here in Burlington, Massachusetts. They printed this with a 3D printer. Now this is stainless steel. And if that isn't impressive enough, they also printed this 3D stainless steel connecting rod for an engine. And this too. They finished this a little bit better. You can see how it can be polished out. They can actually 3D print stainless steel, even titanium. Now the guy who had the Previa, as far as I'm concerned, he was a genius in applied physics. Vacuum sealed for purity, where they can even print titanium parts. Who knows what the future production of things are going to be? People already use them for custom made stuff. It does take a while to print the things, so obviously it's still got a bit of ways to go before it becomes production in any type of big mass, because that takes a while. The gentleman was saying he wants to bring production back to America. I drove through Fall River coming here where I am in Rhode Island. Virtually abandoned old buildings are everywhere, from the textile industry, when Americans used to make stuff and now they're either boarded up or they're trying to turn them into condos and stuff. He wants to bring manufacturing back to America, and at one time was the second largest unicorn in the United States. That's a business that's privately funded. They went public recently, so now they're on the stock market. The quality these guys are making with these machines, and it turns out that they make machines for all kinds of things. For smaller productions, maybe a larger shop that's making its own parts, all the way up to $1 million furnaces where they can create industrial scale metal things being printed 3D. I mean, the stainless steel, it amazes me that they can print the stuff with stainless steel. And titanium, they go even further. They can make all kinds of things with these 3D printers. They got a long way from those little plastic crappers. I had one and it was annoying. It would take forever and the finished product was kind of sloppy looking. Nothing like what these guys can do. Who knows, maybe in the future, a bunch of car parts will be made with 3D printers. Stranger things have happened. I just wanted to give a shout out to Burlington down the street. Hey, I'm glad that people are trying to bring manufacturing back to this country. And really, it's a pretty quality part. I'm amazed that it was made with a 3D printer. Particular one stainless steel, but like I say, they can even do titanium. Now I'm always giving away free car information, and today I'm also giving away this 2200 peak amp jump starter, so you'll never get stuck with a dead battery again. If you have a chance to win, place a clean, non-offensive comment on the YouTube comments below, and it will be chosen randomly by computer to win this cool lithium-ion jump starter. And in an emergency, it also operates as a flashlight. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Guru Sevilla says, Scotty, is it okay to tune my 2012 Civic Si? Thank you. Well, if you know what you're doing. Ironically enough, there's a guy 3 houses over here, and in half an hour he's bringing me a Civic Si that he bought for $5,000 that he's tuning up to get 500 horsepower. He's learning how to do it himself with all the computer parts and all the tune parts. He's even going to weld on a turbocharger. He's a welder, so he knows how to weld, and he's doing it correctly. So if you want to do it, fine. It's your money now. You're talking about 2012, so it's old enough that there's no warranty left on it anyways. You don't have to worry about losing your factory warranty. If you want to learn how to do it, it can be done correctly because you can get all the add-ons. The guy's bringing us over here, has the computer set up in it so he can adjust it. He's got it set for street riding now. He could set it for race riding, and then he could switch it back to street using his computer. There's a lot of stuff out these days you can buy for those Civic SIs. People are nuts about hopping them up. If you want to do it right, don't just think, oh, I can put a farty muffler on it and, you know, cold air intake and it'll run great. No, you got to do it right, but it can be done. Daniel Batano says, is loose smoke more likely bad valve seats, seals, or piston rings for a 2001 Toyota Echo? I can tell you it's the valve seals. Those had bad valve seals in them. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But if you want to do a really good test to make sure, take all the 4 spark plugs out, do a compression test dry, then put a teaspoon of oil in each cylinder and test them. If the pressure goes way up, the piston rings are really warm. If the pressure doesn't go way up, then it's the valve seals. Hey, Scotty, what do you think of a 2005 Ford Explorer 4-liter V6? I'm not a fan of those 4-liter V6s. They had timing chain problems, not all that much horsepower. I love those with the V8. The fancy ones with the V8s, they can run forever. They don't really have any problems. They're great vehicles. But if you can get one of those Explorers cheap enough that doesn't have 200,000 miles on it, I've had customers buy those things for $1,000, $1,500. Drive them for 4 or 5 years. Maybe you have to put $1,000, $2,000 over the years in them, but they get them cheap enough. They can have some fun with those things. They can be okay. Just don't overpay. They're not fantastic vehicles unless they have the V8 engines in them. Epicleater says, thoughts on a Mercedes C300 2010. Okay, that's one of the worst cars they ever made, those 300s. They're terrible cars. They fall apart in front of your very eyes. I had customers with them. I had one customer and he was the 12th owner of the car. Everybody bought it, found it was a lemon, sold it to somebody else, then found it was a lemon, sold it to somebody else. I would not buy one of those cars. They're expensive, they break down all the time. The C-Series are their cheaper cars. And if you go for a cheaper Mercedes, what's the point? You're getting expensive stuff to fix, but a cheaper made car. They don't ride all that well. I'd stay away from that one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.